Hey everyone, welcome back to class 3 of the Zip and Grip. Let's get this one done. I'm super excited. Again, this is a pre-recorded class for the Thursdays of December 2023, as it is the month that I try to only work half days, try really hard. So this is a pre-recorded class. So once again, make sure you comment down in the description that you've seen this so I know that you're here. Make sure you share your Zip and Grips in the Facebook group once you have them all done. I can't wait to see them. And yeah, oh, also because this is the last class, don't forget to get your coupon codes and your patterns for January 2023 classes. They're all on the Facebook page as well, or shoot me a message and I can give them to you. Okay, let's get to finishing up this Zip and Grip. Okay, so let's get this done. We are so close to being done this, believe it or not. So I went ahead and I installed my nameplate. I did it about 1 3/4 inches centered from the bottom, opposite of the one, not the one with the handle, but for the other exterior piece. And we can set that aside for now. Now we're gonna work on our lining pieces. So what we wanna do is we want to measure up. We'll do one first. 1 inch from each of the sides. So kind of put your ruler down like this along the diagonal side like so. Make a mark. Same with on the opposite one. And same with the other panel. So 1 inch up this side here. Okay. Then what we want to do is we want to take our wings. So they go, just double check, I believe they go this way. So we want to put the lining side with the lining. Right, like so. So linings are right sides together, lining the other side up with that 1 inch line there. I just got to even this up. I didn't cut this very good. There we go. Okay. Just like this. Clip it in place. Matching up those raw edges. Same with the opposite side. Again, the lining pieces are right sides together, lining up at that 1 inch mark. So. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to baste those in place. So this is what that looks like so far.
Yeah, and baste. Clean up this mess a little. All right.
Okay, so this is what that looks like so far. Now we want to take our zipper. Now I've gone a little bit longer than 23 inches just because I like to give myself a little bit, well, mine is really long, but a little more space to put my zipper pull on. But what we want to do is we want to find the center of our zipper. You do not need your pulls on at this time. Go ahead and mark on the wrong side here. Find those centers. And then also from the end of each of the wrong side of the short ends of the zipper tape, we're going to take a pen and we are going to mark that 1 inch line And this will be the line we line up when we go to put our 2 zipper pulls on. I am doing 2 zipper pulls. You can decide if you're only going to do 1, but I find it easier to do it with 2 because when we get to the part where we have to sew the zipper into the binding, it keeps that one end closed already with the 2 rather than having to finagle it and have one side that's open and one side that's closed. All right, okay, now I forgot to mark my centers of my lining piece here, so I'm going to just do that really fast. Just by folding it in half, clipping my center there. Same for the bottom. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to use double-sided tape. You don't have to use double-sided tape if you don't want to. You can go ahead and you can pull your zipper teeth apart. One will be for one side, one will be for the other. And my tape, where are you? So use clips or tape as soon as I can find my tape. There we go, there it is. And we're gonna put the tape all the way along this top edge, or you're going to be clipping it there, depending on what you're doing. I'm just going to go like this, take it around that curve. Oops. Like so. Okay, so we have our lining right side up and our zipper tape right side up. And it's very important that this is nice and centered. So you're going to take that little center mark that we had there. I'm actually just going to transfer it to this other side just so I know. I don't want to go too far in because I don't want the mark to show. There we go. Okay, so line your center mark up with that center snip. Again, both of these are right side up, and stick it in place or clip it in place. Now, if you're clipping this in place, you may want to go ahead and baste this on first. I'm not going to baste it because I got the tape as my basting agent. All the way down to the side, like so. Same with the opposite side. My phone's making weird sounds. Just like so. Okay, and now what we want to do is we want to grab our exterior panel. Let me just make sure I'm reading this right. That has the handle, I believe. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and along the curved side of this, we're going to put some tape. And I think I once again forgot to mark my centers. So let's quickly clip our centers, top and bottom. I really got to remember to do this in the beginning. I always forget. But your centers are very important for this little pouch, that's for sure. Okay. So now we're going to take this panel and we are going to put it right sides together on top of this. So the panel is going to go this way. All of this is right side up. This is right side down. Match up that center. You can use clips instead of the tape too, of course. So anytime I'm saying I'm using tape, go ahead and use clips if you prefer. Just know the sensitivities of your machine. Match up that raw edge and stick it in place. Come on. Make sure it stays nice and even. That's what we got. And then we are going to go ahead and sew this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Oops, I can see my zipper tape. It just didn't quite go even. You want to make sure it's nice and lined up with that tape, zipper tape. I missed a little bit there. So even, okay, and I'm going to actually change into my right zipper foot. That'll just help ensure that we get a nice and straight zipper with an accurate seam allowance. Okay. And we're going to sew around. Now it's going to get a little thick because we're also sewing through these wings. So you may need a hump jumper. Right by your, ooh, can you see? I didn't hold my threads back very well there, but we're okay. 1/4 inch all the way around. I like to kind of feel where my zipper is at to make sure I'm not going over my teeth at all. It's not sticking down very good now, is it? Double check that everything was caught. We're good. Everything looks good and even. All right. Okay, so now what we want to do is we want to turn this right side up. Just flip it around. Kind of check to make sure your zipper looks good. And it does. Okay, so you want to keep your wings flared out like this, and you want to give your lining and your exterior a really good finger press. If you've done this in cotton, you can definitely go ahead and iron this. I'm actually going to just kind of pull this down and match up that bottom center to help pull things nice and flat. Press out that seam all along that zipper, nice and round. And you want your seam, of course, pointing down towards the bottom here. So again, to just help hold everything in place, I'm going to clip along this bottom here. And we're also going to be basting this bottom edge, so kind of get it all in place. You want to make sure you have quite a bit of clearance around here, that you didn't do your seam allowances too big, so our zipper will open and close still. Nothing worse than that zipper getting caught on your lining and then not opening and closing. You know what I mean. Here, look over here. It looks pretty good. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to start basting at this bottom edge. We're going to baste, and then we're going to top stitch all along this curve, and then finish the baste along the bottom, making sure your wings are up and out of the way. Okay, so I'm still keeping my zipper foot on because we will have the other half of the zipper to sew still, so we'll just keep it on for now.
Okay, start middle of the bottom and baste with 1/8 of an inch. Okay, and then pivot to top stitch along the zipper. Kind of make sure the seam is holding nice and flat and make sure your wing is out of the way. May need a hump jumper. I still don't know where my hump jumper went to get over where the wings join. Make sure my stitches look good on both sides. I think I can tighten up a bit. Checking my tension. I'm good. Pivot at the bottom. Oops, I got a little bit more. And then finish basting along that bottom. Make sure it all looks good. She looks beautiful.
Okay, that's what that looks like so far. Now we're going to repeat these steps again. Same idea, a little more awkward because we already have one of the zippers already attached. On your opposite side lining panel, find your top and bottom centers. You already have those 1-inch marks from the bottoms. So what we're going to do is we're going to lay this right side up, and we're going to take this, which is also right side up, and the bottom we're going to match up at that 1-inch mark, like so. Clip into place. Just realized I have my braids going the opposite direction than the main panel. Yeah, it's all good. I didn't do my directions right, but it's still gonna look fine. It's all fine. Same with the other side. Match up at that 1-inch mark. And then let's go baste that in place. So it looks like this so far.
And baste.
So this is what that looks like so far. And now we want to do our zipper on this side the same way that we did the opposite side. So the only thing that makes it a little more awkward is we have this side already attached, but it's fine. So I'm going to take my lining right side up, my double-sided tape along it. Again, you can use clips and then baste if you prefer. Okay. Take your zipper tape, right side up, match up that center. I'm going to move that center mark to the front again. Line it up with the center of the lining panel. Stick in place. When doing this, make sure you're not stretching your zipper. You don't want to stretch it out so it goes wavy either. Nice and gentle. Make sure it's nice and straight without tugging too hard. And go down to the end. Place it around the curve. Make sure it all lines up good. Good over here. Okay. Take the other exterior piece, just like we did with the other. So you could go ahead and baste that if you wanted to. And this is right side up with my tape going along that top edge. I've already got my tops and bottoms on this one. Match up that top center, sandwiching that tape, right sides together, and clip or stick. Make sure they're nice and even. Oops. Perfect. Tape moved a little bit there. Okay. And the curve. I'm just going to add a few clips because for some reason my double-sided tape does not like to stick to this vinyl. That's frustrating. That's okay. It's sticking to the waterproof canvas okay, it just doesn't want to stick to the vinyl for some reason. Maybe because the other side is attached, it's just being a little bit finicky. So we'll double whammy it. We'll do tape and we'll do clips. You see, it came all unstuck again. Okay, so I'm not sure why my tape does not want to stick to this zipper tape. So it's sticking to the vinyl, it's just not sticking to the zipper tape on this side. So I'm going to tape it as well as clip it. Very important that we have that nice and centered. Very, very important. I'm thinking it's because it's pulling because of the other side attached. That's why it's not wanting to stay in place, because the other side stayed in place just fine. Okay. is a good place to take your time, because this is what's going to give that gorgeous, you know, diagonal zipper. So you want to make sure it's nice and even. You want to make sure everything is sewn in perfectly, because that is definitely a highlight of this little pouch, is that diagonal zipper. Okay, what was I done? Oh, now it's not sticking. Man. So bizarre. I always use tape on this, but for some reason it doesn't want to stick to the zipper tape. That's okay. Just give it a little bit of help. Better to see it's not sticking now than to when it's at the machine and you've started sewing. That would be frustrating. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to take this to the machine and we are going to sew along there with our zipper fit on with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Making sure this opposite side is out of the way. You don't want to accidentally sew through it.
Again, be aware of where your zipper teeth are. Make sure they're not trying to fold in. Check that everything was caught everywhere, and it was.
So that's what we have. So just like we did with that opposite side, we want to go ahead and we want to turn this right side out. Just gonna flip it over. Should push out all of those curves perfect. Pretty easy to turn out. Finger pressing and clipping that bottom in place. Oops, this way. Make sure the lining is away from the zipper teeth. Getting good finger presses. Make sure it's all nicely finger pressed on this side. Got good clearance of the vinyl from your zipper teeth, which we do. Okay, so just like we did on the other side, we're going to lay this down like this. We're going to baste the bottoms, make sure our zippers are out of the way, and top stitch along there and finish basting the bottom.
Alrighty, so we start with basting around the middle of the bottom. Be very aware of where your zipper tape is. Okay, and then pivot to top stitch. Again, kind of finger press as you go. Making sure my seam is pointing down. It kind of can't go any other way, but it does feel a little bulky there. Sometimes it's like not laying flat, so just kind of press it flat with your fingers. And then finish basting the bottom.
All right, so now we are getting towards the tricky part. I have to remember how I got over part of the tricky part, so we'll see. So this is what it should look like. Okay. Now we want to grab our bottom, which for homework we had already gone and put our other side on. I'm just going to even up because I can see my lining is slightly bigger. So we want to make sure we've already marked all 4 centers. I'm just going to double check that they are indeed center. That one's a little bit off. That one's good. That one's good. That one's good. Okay. So we want to turn this wrong side up. Like so. And the first thing we're going to start with are the front and the back centers. So you can see how our zippers are out of the way here. That's the way we want them. I'm going to match up this first center. And start clipping it into place. Actually, I lied. First we want to, on the 2 sides here, we want to go ahead and mark from those center points 1 inch on either side, because that is where we are going to stop sewing. 1 inch on either side. Okay, just like so. Now we're going to take this and match up that one side of the center. Strands everywhere. Holy moly. My thread management is not good. It's messy, messy. Come on. So this is clipping the exteriors or right sides together. So I'm just clipping the straight edge for now. I'm going to hop over to the other side and do the same on the opposite side and clip together just the straight edge. Oh, goodness, cocoa beans. My neighbor's walking her little baby up and down the sidewalk. That's why Coco's barking. Okay, just like that. And then we want to ease it around these curves. Now our zipper tape should fall about center. I'm going to clip it in place, but we're not going to be sewing that far in. But they should fall center with those notches. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a clip there to hold that in place. Bring down this side as well. So that's going to kind of poke this out. You just want to make sure that they're kind of lined up nice and centered there. Come on. There it is. So where that little, see where the little V, you can kind of cut off this little V here if you wanted to be able to see it better. So where this little V is, whoops, I broke the clip. It should come up centered, almost right up against that mark there, see? Ease it around that curve. And you're going to see that, see, it kind of comes up like that. It doesn't look like it wants to go around the curve, so we're going to use little snips. Just like we do in any bag. Just help bring it around that curve. And it's still not wanting to come all the way around, so I'm just going to trim it up a bit so they match up. That could have just been my poor cutting. Like that. And clip in place. Okay, that's one side done. Look at this side here. So again, see how we have that little bit of a wing there? It's this part here we want to match up with that hole. So I'm just going to kind of trim off just that wing a little bit. Make sure it kind of matches up along that side, right there. So that should be our zipper teeth sitting almost right in the middle of that triangle. And clip in place. I actually marked the wrong side. Where we did those 1-inch marks, we want them to be on the lining side. So I'm just going to transfer that 1-inch mark to the lining side on both, just so I know whereabouts it is. So about 1 inch in. Like that. So 1 inch in from the side there. They're lining up. And we're not going to be sewing this through the zipper yet. That's why we have that 1-inch mark. That is going to be, we're going to leave that unsewn. Okay, so I got to do my little snips on this corner. Take your time doing this. This is the hardest part. And I am going to leave my zipper foot on just because it's going to help us get closer. You'll see when we get there. You will see. Okay, so that's 2 of the corners done. You can see how these match up. We've got our marks 1 inch in from each side. So right here, we'll do those marks here. So from where that little triangle is right there, we want to go 1 inch in from that center. So just like so. 1 inch in on that side, go to this one, and then like where that little triangle starts, 1 inch in again. Like that. And that's just going to tell us where to stop sewing. Okay. So again, line this up, go around. Okay, make sure that the zipper teeth fall in the middle of the notch. You know we have it nice where it needs to be. Again, it's a little bit awkward, but worth it, I promise you. Just work each corner separate from one another and it's easier. Okay, I'm going to do my little snips to get around that curve. Spread it out around that curve. Said my piece is still too big, so I'm just going to trim it up to go the shape of it rather than fighting it. Just taking off like not even 1/8 of an inch, just so it goes around that curve nicer. A bit more. That's off at the bottom. I'm cutting that off, not the gusset or not the main body. I find when using cotton to make this, it gets around those curves a lot easier. Okay, so that's 3 of them. Let's do the opposite side. Here's my center, there it is. So those should match up, right? Yep. Get in there. Right there, perfect. So be right there. So these little zipper sections are the hardest part of the whole thing. Do the snips around the curves and trim if needed. You just have a little smidgen to trim off. Okay, so you can see these are finished edges. We do not sew our little gussets here. This is what that looks like here, but we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start each side from a zipper, and where those 1-inch marks are, just make mine darker. We're gonna sew, I'm not sewing in between those 1 inch. We're gonna start at the 1-inch mark. We're gonna sew around with, what's my seam allowance? I believe 3/8. Yeah, 3/8. So we're gonna back stitch from that mark all the way around, stop at the next mark, 1 inch away from that center part, break our thread and jump over to the opposite side and go all the way around the rest of the way. I'm gonna change my thread out into a thread that matches this because we're almost to the binding stage and I am using the blue, and I mean, it just will look neater in case I don't get a really, really nice top stitch on that. So it's just a way to make that binding look neater in case you have an issue of getting it to go nice and straight. So, okay, so I'm gonna go change my thread and then we're gonna sew that up. Okay, so once again, I have kept my zipper fit on because it's just going to make it easier when we go to bind this and when we go to put the zipper on. Trust me, you'll see what I mean. So put it to your stitching length. Again, we're starting at that 1-inch mark first. Making sure not to sew through your zippers. And so all the way around with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. So this is why I've changed into a matching thread to my lining, is because if my binding kind of falls not quite over where our stitch is, you can't really see it. So because the thread is the same color. Whereas if I use the black thread and I didn't get my seam allowance perfect, it may show. So just a way of camouflaging it, just in case. Okay. Press the seams flat as you go. Go.
Straight sides are super easy. Make your needles down before you adjust. You have to adjust. Okay, to the other 1-inch mark here. Back stitch roll at that 1-inch mark. My scissors, there they are. And same with the other side. Make sure my stitches don't look stressed out, and they don't, so that's good. Won't have to do another row of stitching, which makes me happy. Okay, we're at the 1-inch mark again. What's nice, because it's fully open on top, you can put your hand inside to help flatten out the fabric as you go around to avoid puckers or what have you. Especially around those curves. Get a little bit of a break at the straight stretch. And almost there. Alrighty, we're almost there.
Okay, so this is what we look like. Now you can see here, see how I went a little off kilter? I'm just going to trim that nice and even with the lining. May not have happened to you, it happened to me. That's okay. Still going to get the same shape. We definitely want that excess outside of where we will be binding. Okay, now we can go ahead and we can turn this right side out for now. We will be binding after, but now, look at this mess. I have to put on my zipper pulls. So you can see how we have these still kind of free and clear here. Okay, so this is what that looks like so far. So now we want to put our zipper pulls on. So I'm going to grab it out, your zipper jig, or like I have, my handy dandy fork. Excuse the mess of my floor. We're going to use those lines that we drew on the back of our zipper tape to get our zipper on nice and straight. So putting it in with the wrong side of my zipper pull up, lining up my zipper tape like so, flipping it upside down so we see the wrong side. and pull it on. Come on. Why is she biting me? Cut off some of these strays. Try again. And you want to line up that 1-inch line that we just drew. Not quite. Okay. Let go. So you can see how that 1-inch line that we drew is nice and even. So you can zip up that side part way. Do the same with the opposite side and the other zipper. It's not that one, but this one. Okay. Oh, I got it first try. How about that? Okay, so see if everything is lining up good before we finish the zipper up. Go ahead and kind of pull it together. It's going to give you a sneak peek of what your work's going to look like. Make sure these kind of go inside. Look at that. So it kind of gives you an idea how close we are and how good that looks. Okay. So now what we're going to do, as you can kind of see, we're going to go ahead and we're going to baste just kind of across here. Make sure not to get that on our zipper. Right where these little V's are coming out, we're just going to baste right there to create stops, okay? Same with on this side. I'm going to do this a little bit. And we're just going to baste across the zipper tape here, kind of not into the bag, but kind of where the zipper tape is going to be long, almost where these little V's match up, just to create a stop on each side.
This little side zipper is the hardest part because it likes to move and we want it to stay in place. So again, we're kind of basting things that are going to end up being in the seam, but it's going to create that stop right about there. Make sure the zipper is nice and flat. And just go over it a couple times to create that stop. That's one side done. But we want to be able to still poke it in through this hole in the bottom. So you got to make sure you're not sewing it to the bottom. It's just making it so our zipper pull will not fall off and that our tape will lie nice and flat. Okay, same with the opposite side. Okay, back to the table.
Okay, so now you can go ahead and turn this out again to the wrong side. Your zipper pull shouldn't fall off. I'm leaving my zipper tape super long still. We'll trim that off later. Can poke the zipper tape back into the lining like so. Through that opening in the bottom from that. There we go. Okay, now what we're going to do, this is the trickiest part, and this is why we kept our zipper foot on, is push this in. We want to do up the zipper part way. Come on. And this is finicky, I'm not going to lie. This out might be easier. Poke out the lining like so. Bring the zipper pull up quite a bit. We want to have the zipper pull up above the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance because we need to sew from where we stopped and across here, but we need that zipper pull up and out of the way. So I have it up and out of the way, but at the same time, we want to sew it relatively flat. So I'm trying to remember how I used to do this. So I'm going to take a pin, because I don't want, while I'm sewing, my zipper pull to come down to where I'm sewing, and you can kind of see where the 3/8 is going to be. So I'm just going to take a pin and put it just above that 3/8, just through the zipper tape. And that is going to make it so the pull, no matter how much you're maneuvering this through the machine, is not going to be able to go past that zipper pull. See right there? So you can put it right down to it and move this relatively flat so we can still sew the 3/8 of an inch. So we're going to be going from here and across to the 3/8 over here, but we want this to be nice and flat still. But it's hard because that zipper pull will want to pull out. So if you put the pin at about 4/8 of an inch, so 1/8 of an inch away from where we will be stitching, we'll be able to do that, and that pull is not going to get in the way. We will want to do the same with the opposite side. So we're going to kind of pull that pull up and out of the way. But it is finicky, but it's worth it, I promise you. Okay, I have it. So I have it kind of up quite a ways. I'm going to grab another pin and kind of, I'm almost putting it just below the gusset here, if that makes sense, like just below where this meets, and just pinning it through the zipper tape so I can push my zipper pull all the way down against that pin, so this can lay nice and flat, so we can sew this nice and flat along there. You may have to move your pin as you go, but see how your zipper pull is going to be out of the way. And this is why we're using the zipper foot, the right zipper foot, because it's going to come and pretty much go right up next to the bottom of that pull. So we're going to go ahead on both of those sides, back stitch, ouch, poked myself, and stitch across that gap on both sides. Take it slow. I know it's tricky, but you got this. Okay, I'm just keeping it on this camera view because this is the view you need to be concentrating on. So again, make sure this is lying nice and flat. Put your needle down where our stitching stopped and back stitch, and we're going with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance to close up that gap. You may need to move yours, pull up a little bit if possible, but just do your best. Okay. And I just kind of pull my pin as I go, so I don't sew through it. And you can see how my zipper foot is going right up against my zipper pull. All the way to the opposite side. I think I got it. Let's double check. I want to feel to make sure it's good there. Got everywhere on the bottom. I can see that my thing kind of went up a little bit. That's okay. Maybe if I can pull this, because I probably went to about 1/4 of an inch instead of 1/8 of an inch there. But I think it's okay. I can pull my pull up a little bit more. And then just where that one spot is, I can try to get it a little bit closer. So once you've kind of got it already sewn in place, if you need to go in and readjust, which is what I'm doing, because I had about 1/4 of an inch, and now I'm going in and making sure just over the zipper tape. Might not let me. That's good enough for me. That's better. Okay, same with the opposite side. And this is why I find it a lot easier to do it with a double pull. Otherwise, you would have had to be holding these to make sure the one end stayed shut, and yeah.
pretty good on that one. Whew. That's the hardest part. And just make sure everything was caught here. Again, my seam allowance probably went from about a 3/8 to a 1/4 right where that zipper is, but I'm okay with that. We'll try to get it a little bit closer. Just close it up a little bit and just over where that zipper is, like so. This might work good. I can get it a little bit better. Just over the zipper teeth. That worked good. And do it. Still lays flat. Ooh, that worked really good. Okay, I'm going to do that on this side too. Oops, I've got a text message. Just go a little bit more here. Here we go. We did it, we did it. That's the hardest part. And it looks like I did pretty good there. Hardest part is just getting that seam nice and flat and getting nice and close to that zipper. Make sure you catch everything. I think I did. Okay.
Okay, so once you've double checked that all the fabric was caught, you can go ahead and cut the zipper tape up nice and even with the bottom of the bag. Again, making sure there's no gaps there, because now we get to bind this baby. Same on this side. Cut it nice and even with the rest of it, just like so. All right, kind of feel around. You could turn it out if you wanted to make sure it's all good, but I can see I'm pretty good here. I'm happy with it. And now we're going to bind, and we're going to do waterproof binding. And then the last part we have to do is put in our zipper pocket. So I'm going to go on the wrong side. I'm using double-sided tape here. You could just use clips if you prefer. I'm going to use clips and double-sided tape. So down the middle of my waterproof canvas. And again, you can do any kind of binding method that you like. Just put some half-inch double-sided tape down the 1-inch waterproof canvas binding. And this is where also, if you haven't yet, I would strongly recommend switching into a thread that's the same color as your binding. Okay. Now I actually want to start on a side where there is a zipper to kind of get it over with, because we're still going to want to keep our zipper foot on, because we're going to be going really close to that zipper still. Take off the tape and then start folding it evenly down and around. Okay, I'm going to use some clips. Now I'm going to be sewing it from this side. So this side here is always good to have it a little bit longer. That way when you're sewing with your 1/8 of an inch here, you know you're catching the other side okay. And if the other side's too long, you can always trim it later too with the waterproof canvas anyways. So I'm kind of just lining up the raw edge of my canvas with that stitch line from when we put it all together. And then fold it over evenly to the other side, all the way around. Again, my tape does not like to stick to waterproof canvas for some reason. Okay, not this waterproof canvas anyways. Some it's fine, and some, this one not so much. Make sure you're getting all of those raw edges in there. that one. Curves are always the hardest. It's nice about using the waterproof canvas. I said, I'm still learning this. This wasn't the way I have ever really done it, but I just love how seamless it is and how it all matches. And doing this, you almost get to skip a step compared to when we do my regular with bias tape. So, and this is easier to do on a flatbed machine as well. So I will be binding it on my flatbed machine. When I use bias tape, I bind on my cylinder arm just because it's easier. But this is easy on a flatbed. Okay. Again, I'm just making sure that these are fairly even, so when I go to stitch 1/8 of an inch away from that binding raw edge, it will be catching the bottom side as well. And if you can, you want it to kind of hide that stitching. But because I use the same color thread as the lining and the binding, if you see it, you won't really be able to see it because it's the same color. Whereas if I continued with the black, if I got some messy stitching there, it would be visible. Okay. I'm just lining it up right at the base of my zipper pull there. So I don't want to accidentally sew through that zipper pull when I'm putting this on. So many stray threads, holy moly. There. Another thing you could use for this that would make it really easy, if you can find 1 inch fold over elastic. I believe So Yours does sell it. What's nice about that for binding is it has a little bit of stretch, so it's easy to get around curves, whereas waterproof canvas, it's not stretchy. Get in there. Good. Keep that one. Round. Okay, and then I'm going to cut off my excess that I have here and then overlap it where we started. Make sure they all line up. Okay, so now I'm gonna lay this on my machine. I'm gonna start where I started, and right next to the raw edge of that binding, we're gonna go 1/8 of an inch away from that, all the way around, making sure that we are catching the binding on the opposite side.
Having a stiletto may be helpful here. Okay, where did I start? On the side? Oh, it's on the side. Yeah, okay. Oh, it's weird. My foot came loose. Let me just straighten it out. I have it very tight there, did I? Okay, there we go. So again, we have the zipper foot on because we're still getting quite close to that zipper pull. And I just up my stitch length just ever so slightly to avoid any perforation. Okay. And slowly go all the way around. See how close I'm getting to that zipper pull again? But this foot makes it easy. Okay. One hard part done already. And we'll double check that we have caught the other side when it's all done. We can always go back in and sew again. I obviously can't talk and do this at the same time if we are missing that bottom. Another reason why use the same color thread as your binding. Straight stretch, nice and easy. As long as everything stays where it needs to stay. I think I'm catching everything. Oops, get out of there. Okay, we're coming to the other zipper pull area. Whoopsies, so I throw everything on the floor. So make sure it's sitting where it needs to sit. And you're not sewing through that zipper pull. My foot is coming right up along the bottom of that. So you definitely would like to use either a narrow zipper foot here or a right zipper foot like I'm using. I definitely couldn't do it with a standard foot here. Almost done. Take your time. You can see I don't go fast, but I am new to this kind of binding method. I'm liking it though. I like that it looks so good. I like that it's only one step. Okay, now the moment of truth. I know I caught everything on this side. Now we're going to flip it over and see if I caught everything on the opposite side. So kind of follow your thread along. Did I catch that side? Ooh, just barely, but I did. I caught it there. Caught it there. Woohoo! I caught it all the way around. Yes, perfection. If I hadn't, I would have just gone in and just done little stitches where it didn't catch. Oh, do you know what? I didn't catch it right there. So you can see a little area right there. So I'm just going to go like this. And just that one little area, one very small area that didn't catch, I'm going to just sew it again from this side. So I know that that side is down. So it was just one little area I didn't catch. That's pretty good. And again, that's why I use the same color thread, because then you're not going to notice that there's an extra thread line there on both sides. Check again. Caught, 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 caught. We are all caught. Yay!
Okay, so now we can turn this right side out. Now, you may like it without the zipper pouch and you're done. It's completely up to you. If you just want a big open space. I actually kind of like it without the pouch, so it just lays nice and flat without it, but of course I'm going to show you how to do the pouch. But you definitely don't have to put the pouch in if you don't want to. You can also see I didn't do little zipper pockets or anything because it'd be too small. There's nothing that I could really put in those little spots. You may have something, but I know I do not. Okay, push out those seams all along that bottom. Nice and flat. Set a nice easy turnout. Okay. Let's zip it up to see how it looks. Putting your gussets inside. Now this is a bag that as you use it, it gets its muscle memory and it gets easier to open and close. So I just want to make sure I have no raw edges showing, that my zipper works well. And it does. And you will notice it does kind of have an angle down on the side. That's what it's supposed to have. That's what the back looks like. So if you don't want to put this in, you are done. When you open it up, it lays just nice and flat like so. But we're going to put this pocket in. So I'm making sure I have my zipper pull closing to the left with the front of the bag facing me. We're going to pull this side, the right hand side, we're going to pull the gusset wing or whatever it's called out, like so. And we're going to kind of just fold this to kind of see where that middle is right there. Okay, kind of match this up side to side and find that middle like that. Now, holding on to that middle, the raw edge of this is going to line up with the top and bottom. So you're going to put it in right at that middle point and you're going to use some clips to hold that in place. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to sew up that with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, I believe it is. Yeah. So we're going to start at the bottom side and sew as far up as we can to the top. All right. And I'm still going to use a 1/4 of an inch or my zipper foot, because this is getting bulky, especially right when we get to this top here, because that's where our zipper is a little bit. So let's go ahead and we will sew that up.
So this should be fun because mine is really thick because of the vinyl. You're just going to kind of squish everything down. Move all this out of the way. Put all those pins. Dropping everything everywhere. Okay. Again, we want to go from the bottom up with 1/4 of an inch and a top stitch length. Make sure to back stitch. You want to make sure you're going through all the layers. You want to make sure it's stuck in there really good. I think I am. Feels thick, so I'm pretty sure I'm there. I might need a little bit of a hump jumper there. I wish I knew where my hump jumper was. But I will just use a needle case. That worked. Now another thing you could do instead of sewing with this, if you don't want to sew through the thickness, you could always rivet this in place as well, like I did with the NCW class. But this one's not too hard to do. Okay, just kind of give it a tug to make sure it did catch everywhere. And then while we're here, we're going to do the same thing with the opposite side. So you're going to pull out the gusset. You're going to find about where that center is. Line it up. Get this nice and tight. And then pull this other side through and kind of push this in and match it up to that center on the opposite side. Pull your zipper pull out of the way and get it into that crease. Nice and even. It's a little bit finicky. Clip it in place. Make sure it goes all the way to the bottom good. I find this a lot easier to do in all cottons, I won't lie to you. Well, I did one of these in cotton and a canvas lining, and it was perfection. It turned out so good. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, kind of squish everything out of the way, and sew from the bottom to the top with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And that is enclosing that raw edge. If you have non-fraying fabrics there, I need a hump jumper. Oops, those ones don't flying. There we go. Okay, back to the table.
Okay, so now take your gussets and kind of pull them into the center. So it looks like nice and open. It is meant to be open underneath here, just so you know. Said I love this without the zipper pocket in. It's just a nice thing that opens and closes. But the zipper divider is nice as well. It will get more muscle memory for opening and closing as it is used or left done up. Especially if you use vinyl, it kind of has to train it and get memory. But as that vinyl softens, it's actually doing not too bad at all. Look at that. So yes, it does angle down a little bit this way. It's supposed to. I know a lot of people think it's supposed to be square, but it does angle. She looks good. Let's see if it's already getting that muscle memory. Opens up nice and flat. Cinch in. I have one of these that I've been using since this came out, and it already has its muscle memory. Everything goes where it needs to go, and it's easier. So there it goes. It's already going nice and easy. There you go. So I really hope you guys enjoyed this class. I can't wait to see your zip-in grips. Make sure you put them onto my page or send me pictures so I can add it to the class album. And yeah, until January, I'll see you guys again.